Good morning, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jack's Beach. I get on an airplane tomorrow morning, and by the late morning, I'll be up there hanging with you, Arlo, for a couple of days. I'm coming up to babysit. But I'm not here to talk about babysitting today. I'm here to talk about heroes. We're in the children's book of heroes, and today we're going to look at the Star Jewels. And this is from the Brothers Grimm. This beautiful little story echoes the words we find in the Gospel of Matthew. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was naked and you clothed me. A little girl once lived all alone with her old grandmother on the borders of a forest. They were so poor that they were scarcely able to buy food to eat or clothes to cover them. Never mind, Granny, the little girl would say. Someday I will be big enough to work, and then I will earn so much that I will be able to buy everything that we need and to give something to other poor folk as well. One day the child went off into the forest to gather sticks. These she hoped to sell for a few pennies in the town over beyond the hill. She was to be gone all day, so she took with her into the forest a bit of bread, which was all they had left to eat. It was winter, and the air was bitterly cold. The child wrapped her shawl about her and ran on as fast as she could. She was hungry, but she intended to save her crust until after the sticks were gathered. Just as she reached the edge of the forest, she met a boy even smaller than herself, and he was crying bitterly. The little girl had a tender heart. She stopped and asked the child why he was weeping. I am weeping, he answered, because I am hungry. Have you had nothing to eat today? She asked. I have had nothing, and I am starving, for I do not know where to go for food. The little girl sighed. You are probably hungrier than I am, she said, and she took the crust from her pocket and gave it to the boy. Then she hurried on. So now she's not going to have any food. And here, let's see if we can. Here's this boy. Sitting there. So, of course, this happens in the snow, too. That's why I'm glad I live down here in Florida. A little farther on. Can never get that together, which is further and farther. A little farther on, she met another child who was even more miserable looking than the first, for this child seemed almost frozen with cold. Her clothing hung about her in rags, and her skin looked blue through the holes. So here she is. She looks like Jen Psaki, who used to be the spokesperson for the White House. Ah, cried she, if I had but a warm little dress like yours. Help me, I pray you, or I will certainly die of cold. The good little girl was filled with pity. I have both a dress and a shawl, she thought. I will give one of them to this poor child. She took off her dress and gave it to the child. She took off her dress and gave it to the child, and then wrapped the shawl closely about her shoulders. In spite of the shawl, she felt very cold. Still, she was near the place where the sticks were to be found, and as soon as she had gathered them, she would run home again. She hastened on, but when she reached the place where the sticks were, she saw an old woman already there gathering up the fallen wood. The old woman was so bent and poor and miserable looking that the little girl's heart ached for her. And here's the woman. "Oh no," groaned the old woman, "how my poor bones do ache. If I had but a shawl to wrap about my shoulders, I would not suffer so." This is sort of the like strip poker, but involving a walk through the woods. The child thought of her own grandmother and of how she sometimes suffered, and she took pity on the old woman. "Here," said she, "take my shawl." And slipping it from her shoulders, she gave it to the old woman. And now she stood there in the forest with her arms and shoulders bare, and with nothing on her but a little shift. The sharp wind blew about her, but she was not cold. She'd eaten nothing, but she was not hungry. She was fed and warmed by her own kindness. She gathered her sticks and started home again. It was growing dark, and the stars shone through the bare branches of the trees. Suddenly an old man stood beside her. "Give me your sticks," said he, "for my hearth is cold, and I am too old to gather wood for myself." The little girl sighed. If she gave him the sticks, she would have to stop to gather more. Still, she would not refuse him. "Take them," she said, "in heaven's name." No sooner had she said this than she saw it was not an old man who stood before her, but a shining angel. And here's the angel. Shining angel. "You have fed the hungry," said the angel. "You have clothed the naked, and you have given help to those who asked it. You shall not go unrewarded. See." At once a light shone around the child, and it seemed to her that all the stars of heaven were falling through the bare branches of the trees. But these stars were diamonds and rubies and other precious stones. They lay thick upon the ground. "Gather them together," said the angel, "for they are yours." Watch, there's going to be a jeweler going, "I don't have any jewels. You have to give them all to me." Wondering, the child gathered them together, and all that she could carry in the skirt of her little shift. So a shift must be this dress thing that she's got on. And I think she like lifts up the front of it and holds them in that. So it makes like almost like a pouch. When she looked about her again, the angel was gone, and the child hastened home with her treasure. It was enough to make her and her old grandmother rich. From then on, they lacked for nothing. They were able not only to have all they wished for, but to give to many who were poor. So they were not only rich, but beloved by all who knew them. The end. Peace out.